Hey everyone, welcome to Question Period Rewind. I'm Donna Skelly, the Speaker of the Legislative Assembly of Ontario. Let's go back to 1986. That's the year when the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame inducted its first batch of musicians. Among them, the iconic Ray Charles, Buddy Holly, and of course, Elvis Presley. Tina Turner was also receiving praise in California, where her star on Hollywood's Walk of Fame was revealed. And if you turned on the radio, there's a good chance you'd hear Madonna's #1 hit, Papa Don't Preach. But now, let's tune into the conversations the MPPs were having in Question Period.
Oral questions. The Leader of the Opposition.
I have a question. You take this to Mr. Curling. I have a question for the Minister of Housing, and I have sent over to him a list of figures so that he'll have a fair chance to confirm or deny what I have to ask him. With regard to Bill 51, I suggest to you, Minister, that if you had a building built, if you were a tenant living in a building built before 1975, say a 2-bedroom apartment renting for $500, which had been recently sold to a new landlord, with rents due for an annual increase, some new capital improvements, and with a rent differential in the building, not an unusual or difficult to imagine circumstance, that as a result of all of that, under Bill 51, rents could go up $111 or 22.25%. Could you confirm that that 22.25% increase is quite possible under Bill 51?
Minister.
Mr. Speaker, if the Honourable Leader of the Opposition want me to confirm your mathematical calculation, that's what you want me to do. I cannot confirm your mathematical calculation. You just pass it over to me, and I'll take a look at it and get back to you if your calculations are right.
Supplementary.
Well, let me, on the sheet of paper I sent over to you, may I suggest that the calculations either are fair and in accordance with Bill 51, which you yourself have been responsible for several months, or they are not. Let's look at a building built after 1975, 2-bedroom apartment renting for $800, new landlord, annual increase due, capital improvements, economic loss to the landlord, and rent differentials. Can you dispute any of the following? That the guideline rate estimated would be 5.25% increase, financing costs could be 5%, capital improvements could be 5%, economic loss could be another 5%, and equalization could be another 5% for a 25.25% increase. Now, my question to the Minister is this, Mr. Speaker. Can he specifically deny that any of the allowable 5% increases which I have laid out are not permitted under 51, and could he confirm that since they are permitted under 51, a 25% increase is
Minister.
possible?
Again, it's a very general question that the Honourable Leader of the Opposition had asked. If you have a specific case, then we could then look at it from that point of view. It's a very general question that you've asked. You're asking if these things are taken, if you're asking if these things are considered under Bill 51, they're all considered under Bill 51.
Final supplementary.
That was the question. It is our belief, Minister, that under your legislation, many tenants could be facing a 22 to 25% rent increase. Now, in order for you this afternoon to assure the tenants that that is not possible, we'll give them a chance to read the note. In order for you to assure the tenants that this is not possible, I invite you this afternoon to tell the House whether it is right or wrong to say that financing costs could increase 5%, capital improvements could increase the rent 5%, an adjustment for chronically depressed rents could be 2%, equalization payment could be 5%, and the guideline rate 5.25%, for a total of 22.25% in the first example. Which of those are not included or permitted by the legislation? If you can't indicate it, you confirm that rents could go up 22%.
As I said to the Honourable Leader of the Opposition, that all these are considered under Bill 51.
New question. New question. New question. The Leader of the Opposition.
The Attorney General's telling other people. You should tell the. You're used to telling the other ministers in your cabinet, Attorney General, about it not being their turn. It's always yours.
Order. New question. The Leader of the Opposition.
The Attorney General can only run one party at a time. May I, and I trouble doing that. With or without a liquor license. And I wonder about that sometimes. My question is for the Minister of Transportation and Communications. The Minister was asked some time ago to deal with and table the documents and the information with regard to the sale of UTDC, which he specifically did not table or announce when the deal was closed. In tabling the documents, he failed to table a very key document, which is the VIA side letter. Could you explain to the House why you have not made public the VIA side letter, which is an important part of the closing documents?
Minister.
Mr. Speaker, as recently as estimates in response to a question by my friend the critic, we indeed indicated and brought to that table all of the documents that we were requested to table. All of the documents that we were requested to bring were tabled at estimates as they had been previously.
Supplementary.
May I say to the Minister that the Minister was asked to table all of the closing documents, none of which you have made public, with regard to the sale of UTDC to Lavalin. You did not table the VIA side letter. Could you confirm for the House this afternoon that the letter which you are covering up, the letter which you will not release to the members of this House or to the public, indicates that the Ontario government has a potential liability in the event the Via Rail deal does not go through of up to $350 million?
Minister.
Mr. Speaker, I would not confirm what the Leader of the Opposition is saying. I will state that those documents that were required to be tabled were tabled at the time they were required to be tabled and were resubmitted last week during the estimates process, with the dates clearly stated when they were required.
Final supplementary.
Let me say to the Minister that he alleged last spring, in a big announcement here, that he was going to get $72 million, up to $72 million for UTDC. In the second week in September, he closed the deal. He closed the deal without the slightest announcement, without saying a word to the public about the ultimate deal that they had fumbled to because they had pre-announced an arrangement before they had struck it. The $72 million has disappeared. He has now been asked by the legislature to table the documents, and he has specifically covered up the VIA side letter, the Via Rail side letter, because it indicates a potential liability owed by this government because of the mismanagement of this deal, which could come to as much as $350 million. My question to the Minister in this incredible cover-up is this: is he prepared this afternoon to deny my allegation that the Via side rail letter, which he is covering up, the Via Rail side letter, which he is covering up, contains a potential liability of hundreds of millions of dollars in the event that deal doesn't come through? Will you deny that allegation?
Mr. Speaker, like so many of the statements made by the Leader of the Opposition during the entire process relative to UTDC, I never made a statement in this House about the sale, and I have never referred to the figure of $72 million, and I'm certainly not covering anything up.
New question. New question, the member for York South.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My question is for the Minister of Health. It's about nursing homes. I wonder if the minister, he made a statement last week in reply to questions from me saying that these people of the province will be proud of the nursing home operations, to quote precisely the words that he used last week in the House. The word is proud. The people of Ontario will be proud. I wonder if he can explain why, if this is true, for the period ending January 31st, 1986, of the 331 homes in the province of Ontario, in those homes there were 9,802 violations. 9,802 violations of the Nursing Homes Act and regulations cited in reports. Of those, Mr. Speaker, 257 had to do with special diets not being provided where they were ordered. 237 had to do with food services supervisors not being on staff as required by the regulations. 229 had to do with breaches of the requirement that the nursing homes be free from hazards to health and safety with respect to diet only. 314 had to do with the requirement that menus be posted and dated.
Please.
And 215 had to do with frozen foods being identified and dated. Are these the reasons that people should be proud of the nursing home operations in this province, Mr.
Minister?
Speaker?
Mr. Speaker, I think that what that clearly indicates is that we have people who are out there looking at those situations which identify the problems, and in fact, we have come to grips with some of the problems which have been identified in those reports. People have submitted and resubmitted compliance plans, and a good number of those issues have been cleared up. I don't at all question the figures which have been submitted. Those are probably from the material which we filed in response to order paper questions, but I can tell the honourable gentleman that we are desirous of finding those breaches of the regulations and working to eliminate them, and we will identify and we will eliminate those problems which we find in the field.
Supplementary.
Mr. Speaker, if nearly 10,000 breaches of regulations isn't a symptom of a system that is not working, I don't know what is. Specifically with respect to food, Mr. Speaker, since the Premier has defended the amount of food that's being provided in nursing homes and saying that senior citizens eat less than other people, so therefore they can survive on $2.50 or $60 or $2.70 a day, and since the Minister has also defended that system, I wonder if he can explain the fact that in Mrs. Crittenden's report, she stated very specifically on page 19 that the highest single source of complaints with respect to nursing homes heard by her committee had to do with food and had to do with meals. Received more complaints about that than anything else, at the same time as the other document released by the Minister, the Woods-Gordon report, establishes very clearly that there are fewer inspections per home dealing with nutritional problems than for any of the other areas, fire, environmental, whatever it may be. Can the Minister explain why they're getting more complaints about bad food than they are about anything else, and why there are fewer inspections dealing with food than anything else?
Well, Mr. Speaker, I must say that the honourable gentleman knows full well that Mrs. Crittenden's report also indicates that some of the concerns that have been expressed have been about temperature of meals and a number of other items. I have no problem in recognizing the situation when in fact they talk about as well the time taken to help people eat their meals, attending at various times. And I can tell the honourable gentleman that we are concerned about that, and we're hoping to deal with those problems in response to suggestions made by the Woods-Gordon report. One of the suggestions made by the Woods-Gordon report, Mr. Speaker, as you will know, and as the people will know here, is that we make certain changes in the ministry to help us find the areas of violation and help us to address the problems which the Crittenden report made very clear and very vivid to us. And I can tell the honourable gentleman here, Mr. Speaker, and the members of the public that we are working to do that. One of the prime concerns that we have is that the people who are now inspectors are also being looked upon as sources of advice, and we're working to try and develop for them a consultant's role solely so that they are not also involved in the enforcement. And we hope, Mr. Speaker, that that will help to improve the manner in which our nursing home system functions in this province.
Final supplementary, the member for Windsor-Riverside.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Nursing home in Windsor called Beacon Hill Lodge was charged in March of 1984 and with several charges. One of them dealt with food and not providing snacks and fluids. In their annual report, they had several violations that referred to such things as special diets. And then your nursing home inspection branch was asked to go investigate some concerns that specifically related to this nursing home recollecting margarine patties and creamers, because they said and you reported to me that their budget was 50 cents per day above the average for residents and food. I'd like to ask the minister, does he think it's appropriate that a nursing home recollect margarine patties and creamers in order to cut back on food? And why wasn't this nursing home charged, and why did you condone it in your letter to me very recently?
Mr. Speaker, right offhand, I don't recall the letter that I wrote back to the member, but I will review it. I don't, at the current time, recognize the recollection. I presume that we're talking about collecting patties from tables and the creamers from the tables as well, which I will look into and get back to you on. I don't recall the letter. I know that you have written several times about Beacon Hill, and I will get back and advise you of what I meant by my reply.
New question? New question, the member for Riverdale.
Mr. Speaker,
You should be embarrassed, really.
my question is for the Minister of Housing. On December the 16th, the Minister of Housing said, and I quote, and he was speaking about convert to rent, the program's aim is to help produce moderate-cost rental housing. This afternoon in the House, the minister said that the Wang and Dansky project falls within the program guidelines. I'd like to ask the minister to advise the House where in Canada are these rents considered to be moderate cost? 1,003, 758, 1,027, 999. I'm reading from the monthly market rents proposed by Wang and Dansky. Those rents are now 2.6% below what they would be today. Would the minister please advise how such rents could be low and moderate rents?
Minister.
Mr. Speaker, the 502 units that are being rental units that are being created by the Convert to Rent program, Mr. Speaker, will be some will be subsidized for the affordable rental units there. I'm sure that Mr. Speaker, I don't think the members want to have the answers anyhow. I don't think so. In Toronto, as you know, that the market rent for rental units are pretty high, and someone paying $700 for a 3-bedroom with a family is quite common. So his true and false question, or your filling the dotted line, have to be consistent to what municipality we are talking about. We're looking at Toronto, and $700 are rents that are quite amicable.
Order. Order. Supplementary.
$1,108 a month is a pretty fat dotted line, Mr. Speaker. On August the 12th, the minister wrote to Alderman Martin and said, with respect to your specific concern about provincial convert-to-rent grants for the Wang and Dansky project, please be advised that the program guidelines require evidence of building permits as a condition of the award. In view of the fact that the project still does not have a building permit, how can the minister account for the fact that conditional approval was granted on April the 23rd and again, miraculously, on September the 29th? Minister? And what is going on in the Ministry of Housing anyway?
Minister.
Mr. Speaker, I had hoped that the statement would have clarified those questions that are being asked now. There is no money that has been flown to the developer or the builder as yet. And as you know, the guideline stipulates that 15% of the construction has to be in place before any money is passed on to the builder. Also, too, that building permits must be obtained before those money flows to the developer. Of course, we are quite aware of that, and my staff had transmitted letters to the developers to warn them of that fact.
Final supplementary.
Mr. Speaker, the minister is making an understatement about money flown. Money is flying around here like crazy. I'd like to ask the minister if he would advise the House what is the extent of the subsidy per unit to, in fact, achieve affordable rents through the rent supplement. I would like to know how much this pittance of subsidized housing is going to cost the taxpayers of Ontario. So I'm interested in knowing the amount of deep subsidy per unit through the rent supplement program.
Minister.
Mr. Speaker, the program the Convert to Rent program we have in place is to bring rental units in the market. When we don't build, there is a tremendous amount of criticism. Now that we're building and producing rental stock, they are criticizing. The criteria stipulates, Mr. Speaker, that $7,000 per unit are given to projects in the Convert to Rent program. That helps with the costs of building, and therefore the rent can be reduced.
New question. The member for Brantford.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'd like to ask the Minister of Housing, why you have allowed Wang and Dansky to construct these units on the waterfront, breaking the Building Code Act by building without a permit. And I'd further like to know why you have as yet not responded to Alderman Martin's formal request for an investigation under Section 20 of the Building Code Act to explain this flagrant violation of the regulations. Why have you not responded to Alderman Martin's request? Why will you not undertake a proper investigation of this matter and inform the House as to Mr. Fleischman's role in this extraordinary granting of public money?
Here. Mr. Speaker, if the honourable member wants me to run the municipality too, you realize that the responsibility of building permit comes on the municipality, and they are the one who issued the building permit. We have already, as I told you, communicated with Wang and Dansky to say that if they do not obtain the building permit, there will be no granting of that financing to that project. Now, if you have any evidence, and you're making some very, very serious allegations here about interference, if you have any evidence, bring them forward and stop speculating. Bring them forward, and we will deal with them.
I say to the Minister, we are not speculating, and we are not talking about the responsibility of the municipality. We are talking about your responsibility for Section 20 of the Building Code Act to ensure that construction is undertaken with building permits. Now, the building inspector for Toronto, Michael Nixon, the commissioner has said, and I quote, "I know of no other instance in which a developer obtained agreement to allow building without a permit." Now, are there two laws in this province, one for Ivan Fleischman and Friends of the Liberal Party, and one for everybody else? Why will you not live up to your responsibility and ensure that the law is adhered to?
Minister.
Maybe I should say that again, Mr. Speaker, to the honourable member, that the offer to Wang and Dansky is conditional that they obtain the building permit. Mr. Speaker, if the developers want to continue their building and don't need the money, that's up to them, because we will not transmit any money to the developer if there are no building permit or if they do not fall within the guideline of the Convert to Rent program.
I have a new question.
I have a question.
New question, the member for Sudbury East. I'm sure everybody will pay attention.
The guardian of the swamp. The Minister of Labour regarding Domtar. The Minister will recall that in December, during his estimates, I raised the matter of threats against Dr. Chung and Dr. Haynes, and I did so again in September. The Minister is also aware that Domtar threatened the Ministry with legal action and to close the operation if the Chung report became public. The Minister should be aware that the company wrote to Dr. DeBow of his ministry on November the 8th, 85, indicating another study was to be produced some 5 days before Dr. Muir even indicated he was doing work on the first study. Can the Minister tell me why, rather than trying to blame Erskine of the union and the two doctors who are trying to clean up this mess, why doesn't the Minister admit that there was collusion between the company and Dr. Muir, and his ministry staff was aware of what's going on, and that they're now trying to cover their derriere?
Minister?
Mr. Speaker, my honourable friend raises some very serious allegations. Mr. Speaker, as the honourable member knows, this entire incident has been referred to Mr. Laskin as one of the 71 incidents that Mr. Laskin is looking into. I've had some opportunity in the last couple of days to thoroughly review, or to review fairly thoroughly, some of the materials that are on file in the Ministry of Labour. Mr. Laskin has, with all of the skill within his legal department, and with the people who are working with him, a full opportunity to review all of those. Well, if the leader of the third party would just be quiet for a minute and listen, he might get an answer. Mr. Speaker, Mr. Laskin has been looking at this matter in some detail for a great period of time, and I give the member for Sudbury East, and I give all members of the House my assurance that we will ask Mr. Laskin to look at this matter with the utmost care. I am confident that all of the documents are available for him to make a reasonable finding, and I think I only ask my honourable friend, Mr. Speaker, to wait until Mr. Laskin reports, and we hope that report will be out sometime around the middle of next month.
Supplementary?
Supplementary, since Laskin doesn't have the right to subpoena, cross-examine, and so on. And in addition to that, since the Minister now is aware that Dr. Muir admits he moved without the involvement of the Occupational Health and Safety Committee, and he ignored the internal responsibility system, and since earlier he said he couldn't side with Labour on any of these issues, and it's obvious he has sided totally with management, how can this man remain as the vice chairman of your industrial disease standard panel, and when is this government going to provide funding for independent worker clinics controlled by workers so that they can get the testing done without interference by companies, as is the case in this issue?
Minister?
Mr. Speaker, the honourable member raises a number of questions, but I think that honourable member ought to be aware that the Joint Health and Safety Committee was at most times in this matter was consulted. I will agree with the honourable member and indeed so does Dr. Muir, that he made a very serious error in judgment in speaking at one point and at one point only with the company without, as the member so properly points out, Mr. Speaker, dealing with the Joint Health and Safety Committee. The honourable member and I are in total agreement on that point. But Mr. Speaker, I think that the honourable member would agree with me if he looks at all of the material that's at his disposal. The honourable member would agree with me that at all points along the process, Mr. Speaker, the Joint Health and Safety Committee has been involved and indeed has signed off on its concerns with the first letter from Dr. Chung, the first report from Dr. Chung, and indeed that the members of the Joint...
Order. New question. Order. I heard it. I was just controlling myself as well. The member for Brantford.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I would like to, Mr. Speaker, I'd like to ask the Minister of Housing about his responsibility for the Ontario Building Code Act. I'd like to quote you a couple of lines, Minister, from the Building Code Act under Section 20. Where it appears to the Minister that there is or may be a failure in construction or demolition standards or in the enforcement of this Act or the Building Code, the Minister may designate a person to conduct an inquiry into such failure. The Minister had a formal request from an alderman of the City of Toronto in September for an investigation into the circumstances surrounding the approval of this Wangandansky project. Why has the Minister not lived up to his responsibility under Section 20 to start such an investigation?
City of Toronto is asking. Minister, order. Mr. Speaker, I am quite confident that the City of Toronto is able to conduct their business in a very professional way. And I have all confidence that they will deal with the matter of the building permit with Wangandansky.
Supplementary.
Sir, I want the Minister to know we will not stop asking about this project until we have a full and proper investigation. I want to ask by way of supplementary to the Minister. You have said in your statement earlier today that this project fit the criteria. I want to tell the Minister that the silos that by some wild stretch of imagination you are suggesting was converted into apartment stock were torn down over 3 years ago. The vacant land on which the buildings are going to be constructed has been vacant for 3 years. The approval under your Convert to Rent program was this year. How can you possibly say that this project came within the criteria of the Convert to Rent program? How can the Minister say that? Why can any other developer building new apartment units not come in and say to the Minister, I qualify under this program?
Minister, the question's been asked. Minister.
I may have to send you the guidelines. You said you'd call my office and got instructions. I think you may have heard wrong because your interpretation is completely off. I read it in my statement here, and I would read it again to you, Mr. Speaker, through you, Mr. Speaker. All conversion of non-residential structures. You at and Order. Mr. Speaker.
Order. Minister.
Mr. Speaker, and the honourable member had suggested in his statement that there were silos that we convert. I want to state it for the record that when he stated that there were silos that were converted, my statement is to say that those silos had been off that lot for 3 years ago.
Order. There are other members that would like to ask questions. Order. I'll just wait. Order. Order. New question, the member for Lakeshore.
Mr. Speaker, I have a question for the Minister of Energy. Last week I raised with the Minister of the Environment the need for a public hearing about the transportation of tritium around this province.
Never got an answer.
The Minister of the Environment indicated that he was exploring that possibility. I'd like today to ask the Minister of Energy, can he tell the House whether or not he supports the need for an environmental assessment hearing into the transportation of tritium?
Minister?
In the first instance, Ontario Hydro is removing tritium from heavy water to protect the workers at Ontario Hydro. That's the main undertaking. They have, in fact, transported heavy water from place to place on many occasions because heavy water, of course, is not always produced on the site
of a nuclear plant. So Ontario Hydro has, in fact, over the past years, built a kind of containers that would cause it to be moved safely. I'm sure that all of the concerns of the honourable member will be taken into account in the movement of heavy water.
Supplementary?
He said no.
I don't think that's quite what I asked, Mr. Speaker. I wonder if the minister is aware that what we are talking about are up to 1,200 truckloads of tritiated water already existing at Bruce and 800 truckloads at Pickering. And when the tritium removal facility is completed at Darlington, this material will have to be brought to Darlington. My question to the minister again is, will you support an environmental assessment before moving that very toxic material through small towns and along highways all across this province?
Minister?
Mr. Speaker, I understand the question exactly as the member posed it. I think that if there's going to be an undertaking of an environmental assessment, you should put that question to the Minister of the Environment. I am in complete concert with him in protecting the people of Ontario in transportation and any other areas that might have some impact on the public. I think he certainly has the responsibility, and I've cooperated with him to this point in time 100%.
New question, the member for Rainy River.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, my question is to the Ministry of Industry, Trade and Technology. I'm sure the Ministry is aware that the people of Northern Ontario are suffering layoffs and are being threatened with further layoffs if this government fails to take action on the softwood lumber issue. The government's done nothing to help the laid-off workers while they wait for the final tariff decisions in December. I'm afraid many of these lumber workers and their families in Northern Ontario will have a very bleak Christmas this year due to the government's inaction. My question to the Minister, Mr. Speaker, is what action does the government plan to take to assist the laid-off workers in providing other jobs in Northern Ontario while they're waiting for this decision?
Minister?
Mr. Speaker, I believe that on several occasions I have mentioned several of the actions that the government is taking. I should mention in the softwood lumber area that my officials met with the people that came up from the States on the verification process. We will be meeting with them later this week and be putting forth the Ontario's case.
Supplementary?
By way of supplementary, Mr. Speaker, I'm sure the minister is aware that Northern Wood, Great West Timber has laid off or will be laying off 100 people by Christmas. LaCour Lumber of Hearst has laid off 35 workers. Martel Lumber of Chapleau has not sold or taken any orders since the announcement. And Atikokan and Forest Products have laid off 14 workers and announced an additional 14 workers. My question to you, Mr. Minister, is what are you doing for these workers that are subject to the layoffs prior to and before Christmas?
Minister?
Again, Mr. Speaker, as I have mentioned in the past, in this particular area, the success of the talks, we intend to push them as quickly as we can. We do not expect a resolution to that problem until the end of December, and it does cause a problem if those people are laid off, and we are concerned about it.
New question. The member for York South.
Speaker, my question is to the Premier. I know the Premier will have heard over the last several months his double act, the Minister of Labour and the Attorney General, say that if the bill which you introduced with respect to equal pay was extended beyond the very narrow base of 26,000 workers working directly for the government, it would, according to them, it would shipwreck the bill, it would scuttle the bill, or it would skewer the bill. Those are, I think, are the nicest things they had to say about those amendments. Now, the Premier will know that those amendments, by the wisdom of the committee, have been ruled within the powers of the committee, and it's clear now that those amendments to broaden the bill are going to go forward. Certainly on behalf of our party, they're going to go forward. Can we have the Premier's categorical assurance, Mr. Speaker, that he will not use these progressive amendments as an excuse to withdraw the legislation?
Premier.
Speaker, I don't think you interpret the events quite properly. As I understand, the chairman of that committee, the honourable member from Sarnia, made a ruling with respect to the jurisdiction of this of his committee and the jurisdiction of the House to amend a particular bill. Now, my colleague to the left, the House leader, tells me that there is a long-standing tradition in this House, part of parliamentary tradition, that says that the opposition does not have the power to widen a bill, particularly where money is at issue. I don't pretend to stand in front of you as an expert on parliamentary procedure, but people I respect, like the House Leader, and I believe, if I'm incorrect, I'm sure he'll correct me, the chairman of the committee said exactly the same thing. I believe my facts are right. Well, Mr. Speaker, then it raises the very interesting question of the responsibility of the opposition. You see, in a minority House, as you know, and we've seen many abuses of that power, in my opinion, in the last little while, can do virtually anything they want. And so, Mr. Speaker, let me tell my honourable friend, if you expect minority government to work, you've got to respect the traditions of this great Parliament. And when opposition violates those traditions of this Parliament, then I can tell my honourable friend that I can't make any predictions about what's going to happen. You've got to show the responsibility.
75 and 81, you forget that.
Order. 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 On a point of order?
Point of order. Do the representatives of the Conservative Party recognize that the people of Ontario are watching this?
Order. Order. For the last time, order. Order. I would remind the members you have now wasted another 3 minutes of members' time to ask questions. Order. Order. Supplementary, the member for York South.
I seem to have struck some kind of a chord. I don't know quite. The nerve, I think, is some sort of problem with the Premier.
Supplementary.
I'm interested. Well, I'm interested in all the heckling now I'm getting from the other side. I would have thought you would want to hear what the supplementary was. I'd like to ask the Premier. I didn't hear an answer to my question. I heard a very fine rhetorical speech which ignores all the precedents which were established between 1975 and 1981, when for 6 years we had minority government. For 6 years we had minority government between 1975 and 1981, and the House and committees were given the ability to amend and change legislation. So I'd like to ask the Premier.
Order. 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 That was a good 40-second wind-up to your question. Would you please place your supplementary?
40 seconds, a very good 40 seconds. So what I'd like to ask by way of supplementary to the Premier is just really to repeat the question and to try and get an answer. No rhetoric about how unhappy you are, but simply an indication. Are you prepared to continue in good faith with trying to find a piece of legislation that all this House can agree on, which I believe we can find with this bill as well as with Bill 51, or are you going to use the exaggerated rhetoric, which you appear to have lapsed into, shared by the Attorney General and Minister of Labour when you use such adjectives and such verbs as shipwreck, scuttle, and skewer? Are you prepared to continue in good faith with a sensible discussion of legislation, all the members of the House participating in democratic fashion? Mr. Speaker.
Mr. Speaker, my honorable friend recalls precedent between 75 and 81, and I don't recall that you were here during those circumstances. If you were here, let me tell you, nobody noticed, Mr. Speaker, but I was here. I was here, and let me tell you, my honorable friend to the left, who I think you would agree with me is the most, as the Dean of this House, is the most respected member of this House in terms of parliamentary precedent authority, and let me tell you, I went through those minority times, and I remember them very well. Indeed, when I came into the House, it was a minority situation. And I can tell you, my honorable friend, that minority, I believe that the opposition parties respected the rules as they existed in the legislature at that time. I can tell you, if this ruling, I assume, is troubling to my friend from Sarnia, who I believe in the circumstances had used his best judgment, presumably got advice, I can tell you that the honorable House Leader has been troubled by this precedent, and he has sought advice on the matter as well. But it points out a situation where a minority or the opposition party and parties in a minority house can gang together and do anything they want to, whether it's within the confines of parliamentary precedent, whether it's legal or not. And it requires, in my view, a degree of responsibility that sometimes is not shown in this House. I recognize, Mr. Speaker, that we have to be responsive to all parties, and we try to be so. But at the same time, the other parties have to respect our responsibility in these matters as well. You know, and I know, that the Attorney General is introducing another bill with respect to equal pay. Well, you heard his assurances. You deal with these questions. It's being done in an orderly and thoughtful way. The whole plan was shared with you before. Well, I must say I don't understand your recent conversion to equal pay.
Order.
It smacks of hypocrisy.
Order. 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 Would the Premier... Order. 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 New question. The member for Lincoln.
Try not to be provocative.
Yeah.
Be most helpful.
Don't bait the bear.
My question is the Minister of Health. The Minister will know that on 2 occasions over the past 13 months, he has publicly committed himself to a new Ontario drug benefit formulary. He's also aware, Mr. Speaker, that his failure to meet these commitments not only means that pharmacists are paying more than are not able to recoup their costs for drugs that they dispense, but also that taxpayers and consumers are now paying for that same kind of foot dragging. I want to offer you this example, Mr. Minister. A pharmacy in Jackson's Point, not a large community, estimates that on 5 drug products that it dispenses that are now available in generic form but not in the drug formulary, the ODB program is losing $229 a month. The Ontario Pharmacists Association, using your figures, your ministry's figures, estimates that on 13 commonly used drugs available but not listed in the generic form, estimates that the taxpayers and consumers are now paying close to $13 million a year. Are you going to publish a new formulary?
Minister?
Yes, Mr. Speaker. We are working on the new formulary, and we have indicated by correspondence to the pharmacists that we are working as well on proclamation of Bills 54 and 55 on the 15th of November. Mr. Speaker, we have found that it is not always easy to find the accurate information with respect to drug prices under our current situation, so that we can print the formulary without Bills 54 and 55. I can tell the honourable gentleman, however, that we believe with some of the authority that is residing now in those 2 bills that it will allow us to get accurate information so that we can print a formulary under the BAP formula which the committee developed in its deliberations.
Supplementary?
Well, I can only, Mr. Speaker, through you to the Minister, only remind him that his correspondence to pharmacists is looked at with some jaundiced eye after his commitments over the past year. Mr. Speaker, through you to the Minister, I want to remind the Minister that now his failure to act on this particular issue is causing some severe human suffering. A terminal cancer patient in Mississauga who has a severe drug reaction
to an ODB-listed narcotic. Her doctor has tried for days to get a special authorization number for a different drug, but he's confronted on a continual basis with a busy signal on the telephone line. The patient can't afford the $190. You think that as the Minister of Health that you have some obligation to patients who find themselves in this kind of predicament to provide accessibility to new drugs and to new health treatments.
Minister?
With respect to the special authorization program, I do understand that those phone lines are busy. And in fact, Mr. Speaker, I would like to receive from the honourable gentleman directly the information so that I could help make some progress with respect to that patient. But I can tell the honourable gentleman that we have been working very hard on the information which we felt would be needed to put out a new formulary. We found that was not possible under the circumstances. We convened meetings between us and the association and between members of my ministry staff and representatives from various of the manufacturers, and we could not come up with prices which were realistic to be printed in a formulary without Bills 54 and 55 as they were passed proclaimed. We will do that, and I can tell the honourable gentleman that we're looking forward to the printing of that new formulary, and we will be looking at the listing of those products which, Mr. Speaker, the honourable gentleman is suggesting must be listed in this ODB formulary.
New question, the member for Ottawa Centre. Oh, I'm sorry, the member for Algoma.
They're fighting. A riff.
Mr. Speaker, I have a question of the Premier regarding the joint release of the Algoma Central Railway and the Algoma Steel Corporation last Friday in Sault Ste. Marie, which stated that the provincial and federal governments have agreed to subsidize ACR freight rates. Can the Premier confirm the substance of that release, that the governments intend to subsidize if the ACR employees agree to wage and benefit concessions, and inform the House how much of the estimated $5 million cost will come from provincial coffers in the first year, and how many years this proposed subsidization of these private companies by the taxpayers is expected to last?
Premier?
I'm not aware of the release that you talk about, but I'm very much aware of the discussions that were going on with Algoma and the ACR as well. You'll be as familiar with any member of this House the problems that both the railroad and the steel company have had in the last little while. You'll be familiar, of course, with one of the competitive problems is the price of the haul from Wawa to Sault Ste. Marie. And you'll be aware of the fact that one of the problems with Algoma Central Railroad is the fact that they don't have a large load base to put their portion of their overheads over. And they've got to put a substantial amount of those costs onto that particular run, as my honourable friend knows. You'll also be aware that the transportation costs of bringing iron ore in from the mine that they own in Michigan is substantially less than that. And everyone is searching for solutions to that problem. We do not want to see, as do the federal government, I'm sure the union and the company, see Sault Ste. Marie take any more hits in this particular situation. So there are discussions going on. I can tell my honourable friend that there is, to the best of my knowledge, nothing finalized. There is no agreements that have been signed that I'm aware of. I certainly know discussions are ongoing. We're searching for a permanent solution in the long term.
Supplementary, the member for Sault Ste. Marie.
Mr. Premier, we know that your Deputy Minister for Northern Development has been involved in these discussions on behalf of the provincial government. One of the fundamental issues here surely has to be whether the rail line in fact is a viable private enterprise or not. Now, if it is a viable enterprise that can make a profit in the long run, why should the taxpayers of this province be subsidizing that operation? And on the other hand, if it is not a viable enterprise, don't you think the best solution would be to have Ontario Northland Railway take over that operation to ensure that we have this essential freight service available in our area, the District of Algoma, on a long-term basis?
Here. Friend, I'm not trying to be unkind, but is that socialist logic, frankly, doesn't ring with me. You're saying it's losing money, therefore take it over. That's what you're saying. That's what you're saying. Well, that's exactly what my honorable friend, a former economist with Algoma, is telling me. I'll tell you, Algoma's lucky you're here, not running the plant right now. Let me say that to my honorable friend. But that's your logic. You're saying it's losing money, therefore to let government take over the rail line. Let me say we're searching for a solution to this problem. I'm not interested in taking over any more companies, particularly ones that are losing. We're into a situation. Well, let me tell you something. We have there are competitive problems, as you know, and what the worry, obviously, is if there's any more problems with Algoma, then the railroad could be affected thereby, and it could have disastrous consequences in northern Ontario. We are looking at all of the alternatives to stabilize the situation, both short-term and long-term. As I said to my honourable friend, there's not an answer to that question today. Discussions are ongoing. I'm sure it's one of the issues we'll be discussing next week in the Sioux when we're there, and I hope my honourable friend is there to give an assist to that particular discussion. But I'm sure you would not want to see any more problems created in the Sioux, particularly if we're in a position to assist, and we're exploring all options in order to do so.
New question, the member for York Centre.
Community and Social Services has to do with the Homemaker program, one of the most important programs we have in our province to help people stay in their own homes longer, help the frail, the elderly, the sick. It's an important service, but there's this problem. I want to ask you, what action is your ministry taking to fund the services of homemakers, especially as provided by voluntary non-profit organizations? They have a funding problem right now. What are you doing about it?
Minister.
Mr. Speaker, I have met with the Association for Homemakers across the province. I've met with the Provincial Association for the Red Cross. They have indicated to me the specific problems that they have. They raised, for example, the issue of the increased premiums for workers' compensation and the increased minimum wage base, which of course affects all wages above it. I have indicated that in both of those situations, I am prepared to request additional assistance from our own resources, and I'm also prepared to request that municipalities would cost-share those increases with us.
Supplementary.
The action is required sooner than later. It's a razzle-dazzle of announcements that are coming from your ministry, and what is happening is that we are paying for the social programs on the backs of underpaid homemakers who are doing the heavy burden of the job. We're seeing people in our province, Mr. Speaker, paid under $90 a week for 20 hours work. We're seeing 30 of some 47 different branches of the Red Cross Society facing a deficit. How soon can you begin to put money out there where it's really going to begin to count, where it's going to help those services continue?
Minister.
Mr. Speaker, the particular concerns that the member raises are not the same all across the province. There are some places where the rate is in the $9 range. There are other places where the rate's in the $5 range. Obviously, our attention has to be put in those areas where the need is the greatest, and that's why we told both the Ontario Association and the Red Cross that we would work with them and work with municipalities where the problem is the greatest.
New question, the member for Hamilton West.
Mr. Speaker, to the Minister of Education, Jacqueline Rowett, who is 8 years old, goes to brownies, ice skates, ballet, plays the piano, takes lessons in music, completely integrated into the community. And yet the York School Board, and now a ministry tribunal, says that she can't go to school with her brothers and friends, but has to go 19 miles to a distant school and to strange classmates. Jacqueline has Down syndrome. Her parents have fought for 3 years, spent $20,000 to get her into a regular classroom, and now they face the end of the appeals process. What is the minister prepared to do to help Jacqueline go to school with her friends and her brother in the community school?
Minister.
Speaker, first of all, may I thank the member for Hamilton West for asking me my first question. I'm very appreciative of, for I have been here every question period save one, and I just want to thank my honourable friend for inviting me to participate in this important. Yes, I have a new haircut, I say to the member for Scarborough Centre, and I won't say anything else.
Does that have anything to do with the question?
Where he's concerned. Mr. Speaker, the honourable member raises a concern about which I am aware. I want to say to the honourable member that the case to which he makes reference has proceeded through all channels that are provided in the legislation, the final step being the decision of the provincial tribunal, which decision is final and binding. I intend, Mr. Speaker, to respect that and therefore would respond accordingly.
Supplementary.
Mr. Speaker, the case is a textbook case against the appeal procedure, in which we know there are all kinds of problems and difficulties. And the fundamental one is that the onus is left with the parents to prove that their placement is the best placement and that the board's placement is the wrong placement. The tribunal told the Rowetts that they hadn't made their case. But how could they when they did not know the board's proposal, for example, until it was made at the hearing itself, and no opportunity to prepare their case? The director's defense that many of those disabled kids, as he puts it, have frequent emotional outbursts is totally irrelevant. It's a libel on Jacqueline Rowett, who does not exhibit those problems. When will the minister state clearly that occasional exceptional exceptionalities aside, unequivocally that under Bill 82, the child will be placed in a regular classroom, in a regular school, and that the onus lies on the board to demonstrate conclusively that that is not the most appropriate placement
Minister.
for that child.
Here, here.
Mr. Speaker, as the honourable member knows, we are reviewing the procedures under Bill 82 on the basis of our 5-year experience, and that review will hopefully culminate in some positive change in the not-too-distant future. But as to the here and now, I want to be very clear, Mr. Speaker. The honourable member knows that the Special Education Tribunal is composed of experts in the field. They have passed judgment on this case within the context of the law as it is now written, and I intend to see that the law as it is written is upheld in this case.
Time for oral questions has expired.